A group of House Republicans are not backing down. They are accusing the FBI of stonewalling on answers about the now infamous Department of Justice memo. The department greenlit the FBI to go after concerned parents who were showing up at school board meetings. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio is leading the charge. He called out FBI Director Christopher Wray for ignoring questions about using the nation's counterterrorism resources on parents. Quote, "Your response regrettably highlights the FBI's pattern of refusing to accept accountability for its actions and explains why public trust in the FBI's senior leadership has eroded so significantly," end quote. Attorney General Merrick Garland has not rescinded the memo and defended it last year.
We are not investigating peaceful protest or parent involvement in school board meetings. We are only concerned about violence, threats of violence against school administrators, teachers, staff. That's what this is about, a place where people who feel that they've been threatened with violence can report that. We did not sic the FBI on parents. That's not what this memorandum is about.
Well, if he's looking for threats of violence, he should go to Chicago or New York City and just walk the streets. Power panel now. Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor and former Republican Utah congressman. Kevin Walling, former Biden campaign surrogate. Great to see you both. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. And just get your top line thoughts on what's happening with this issue.
Yeah, Harris, I'm all about transparency and investigations if they're warranted. I reread the October 4th memo that's in question from the Department of Justice and the FBI, and it talked about the increase in threats that we were seeing play out in school boards and classrooms across the country. That's a terrible thing. I'm all about ratcheting down of threats of violence and things like that. At no point did that memo ever mention parents. They just mentioned, again, those increased threats across the board.
Did you think that it was toward anybody else? So, like, who's showing up at school board meetings? Did you think that they didn't mean parents? Because if they didn't, then that National School Board Association group wouldn't have come out and apologized to the parents, because they were the ones that sent the memo to the White House with the wording that they wanted anyway in the first place. So who did you think they were talking about if they weren't talking about parents?
I mean, I think they were talking about individuals in this country that were threatening school board members, whether they be parents or individuals within that community. And when that language and those threats cross a line, that's when law enforcement gets involved. And that's what that memo is all about, is working with state and local law enforcement to bring down the rhetoric and to track those threats across the board.
Why couldn't we, and Jason, I'll pitch this to you, why couldn't it be that our government would trust local law enforcement, municipalities, to know their communities and to respond? I mean, when they call 911 on whomever has shown up to a place, school board meeting or wherever, I don't see the FBI answering the 911 calls. That's not their job.
Yeah, as if the FBI doesn't have enough to do. They're supposed to be in charge of counterintelligence and kidnapping and trafficking and sex trafficking and all these things. And you're telling me that they're worried about school boards? I mean, that's the question that Jim Jordan and those other members of Congress are asking. What is the national conspiracy that you see evidence of that would justify allocating resources such as you did? Because it really should be up to the local sheriff. If it's a big city or even a small city, the city police can take care of this. There is no evidence out there that this is some nationwide conspiracy that justifies using the resources of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So what is it, Mr. Attorney General, that you saw that we should be aware of as a nation that is going on there? But I think we know a lot of the answer, but the Department of Justice has not come clean in sharing that information with Congress and the American public.
Well, this group of House Republicans is not going to let the issue go. So if there was any hope that people would be forgetting about it, they won't be. And look at the state of Virginia, Kevin. This is an issue with parents getting involved in their kids' lives after they were locked up in the house with us for almost 2 years. We actually see what their education is and who's participating, and we want to be an even bigger part of that. All right, we'll move on. Another hostile moment with the media. This time, the president going after NBC's Lester Holt, really nice guy, over a very fair question.
Said inflation was going to be temporary. I think a lot of Americans are wondering what your definition of temporary is.
Well, you're being a wise guy with me a little bit, and I understand that's your job. The reason for the inflation is the supply chains were cut off, meaning that the products, for example, automobiles, the lack of computer chips to be able to build those automobiles, the number of cars were reduced, the new cars were reduced. It made up at one point 1/3 the cost of inflation because the price of automobiles were up.
We're seeing rising prices everywhere. Food, energy, fuel, gas prices up by 40% from the same time last year. Today's New York Post cover says the average household is paying $276 more per month compared with a year ago. A Washington Examiner op-ed says Biden created his own inflation problem with the reckless spending that began his administration. Biden inherited a rapidly recovering economy. All he had to do was get out of the way, let it happen, and claim credit. He couldn't manage that. All right, in reverse order this time. Jason.
Yeah, we have a Biden problem, and it's this Biden inflation. When your food is up 7%, when your fuel is up 40%, when real wages are down 1.7%, you have this perfect storm. And the only solution that Democrats offer is raise your taxes and spend more money. Well, spending more money is going to exacerbate the problem, not solve the problem. And the federal government is spending about 1 out of every $4 that's spent in this country is spent by the federal government. So you can't continue to sustain that. And the only solution that Biden, Harris, the Democrats offer is build back better. Let's go spend trillions more and make the problem worse.
Well, if he can even get that. I mean, he's still fighting within his own party.
Right.
Maybe they will get something to give this president a win ahead of the midterm elections. But the big question, Kevin, would be too, what about the American people? Why does it take him so long to catch up with where everybody is on this issue? Like, they've been saying for months things are really expensive. They've been saying for months gasoline was headed in the wrong direction. And he kept telling us that it was in our heads, that it was going to change. Supply chain crisis, Santa will fix that. His words. And it's just, he's got this lag. And it's not good.
Harris, the president has been focused like a laser on this going back to the fall where we saw this jump, opening the oil reserves, talking about competition among the meatpacking industry in this country. So this president,
like
the whole reason,
Kevin,
Harris, the whole reason the president was in Virginia was talking about inflation in that interview and stumping for Build Back Better and aspects of that, stumping for lowering the cost of prescription drugs, putting more money in middle-class families by extending the childhood tax credit in this country. They are tangible things that this president is focusing on and campaigning on to get past the finish line. Now, I'm hopeful, Harris, to your point, that aspects of that Build Back Better plan will pass, and maybe they have to be standalone components, but this is certainly a crisis for the American people, and this president is focused on that crisis.
And again, people will ask, well, then why didn't you do some of those standalone things when it could have helped Democrats to have some wins going into the midterms? I mean, it's circular, the questioning now.
It is.
He's not inserting himself with the answers. And what you're pointing to also is messaging. And when you call Lester Holt a wise guy, you've lost the battle. Because you can't get to the answer of the question.
I think it was a flippant kind of joke remark, but that's, he was smiling when he said it, Harris.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Inflation's not funny. Good to see you both.
It's
Thank
not.
you.
Thanks, Harris.
Thanks, Harris.
Democratic